Hello everyone, welcome to Christiaan's Rhythm Workout CRW number 6, and in today's episode we're going to take a look at how to play rhythm for the song Avalon, and we're going to take a look at both a very simple version and a version with some very interesting inversions. If you're new to this series is dedicated to learning how to play rhythm for standards that are usually being played in jam sessions and gigs in the gypsy jazz scene. And the idea is that I teach you how to play rhythm for a certain song, the way I play the chords. And then, if you want, you can practice that with a backing track I produced for my patrons on Patreon. So if you want to have access to that backing track, and it's a very helpful thing because it's only bass in 2, I can let you hear what it sounds like. It comes from this little box here. So it's a bass in 2, programmed to a click, and it's 12 choruses. So for you to be able to play in sync with that bass in 2 while you have to play 4 chords per bar, you have to be a very tight rhythm player, and it's an excellent way to practice it. And if you get access to this backing track through Patreon, you'll get access to the 5 previous ones as well, of course. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you 2 versions, a very easy one or a very simple one, and a more advanced version. So let's get started. Now I'm not going to show you the mechanics of rhythm because I made several tutorials for that already. If you want to learn how to play a gypsy jazz rhythm, how the left hand works, the right hand, then follow the links in the description or in the comments to those tutorials. So Avalon is a song in F, but it starts on the 5 chord of C7, and this is the easy version, so it's just a basic C7, which I play like this, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3. And if you have trouble with putting your second finger on 2 strings, while also hearing the D string, it just means that you have to experiment a little with the angle of your second finger. Maybe you have to put it more round or more flat, depends on your hand. But I promise that if you practice, if you find a way to play those 2 strings while not muting the note on the D string, you get a very full sound. Especially because I like to play rhythm on the lowest 4 strings. Even though my fingers are fretted across all 6 strings, and that's also noted in the diagram, I focus with my right hand only on the lowest 4 strings to get that growly sound. And then we switch to F6, and I play that with my thumb on the F, on the low F on the E string, which is pretty difficult to do if you're not used to it. Again, this is just finding a way to play this by changing the angle of your hand. Maybe you have to put your hand a little bit more flat against the back of the neck. Maybe you need to put it more round. It completely depends on your hand, and of course also you have to practice this grip by gripping it, letting go, gripping it again, until it goes automatic. And it will go automatic at one point, I promise. I mean, there was a time that I couldn't play this chord either, especially this low on the neck, right? It's a pretty big chord to play. So 2 bars F6, or 1.5 bar, and then we switch back to C7 for 2 beats, and we go back to F, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So let's play those first 8 bars with the backing track. The trick is not to press too hard also with your left hand. You don't want to press all the way down. I talk about that more in the tutorials. But if you press really hard, you'll make your hand very tired, especially with those large grips. So press lightly and play lightly in general. Also with the right hand, you don't have to play. You have to play civilized. Okay, let's go to the next 8 bars. The next 8 bars are exactly the same as the first 8 bars, so we can skip those. Let's go to the next 8 bars. So here we go to 4 bars D7, which is exactly the same as C7, but 2 frets higher, right? 5, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5. And again, I only play the lowest 4 strings, and in this chord it's extra important because this dominant chord, this D7 chord, will resolve to minor, to G minor, G minor 7. And if we resolve to a minor chord, we don't want to hear, especially not that note on the B string. It should be a flat 9, but I don't like this chord in rhythm. I know it doesn't sound right to me. That's why only the lowest 4 strings. So you will avoid that note. To G minor 7. And then B flat minor 6, which looks the same as D7, only fret higher. So you could say, oh, it's E flat 7, but in this time I don't have a note under my second finger on the A string. It's muted. So it's pretty important to be able to play both 2 notes there, to play E flat 7, or to mute that A string. So it's B flat minor 6. So let's play from the beginning until here. And then the final 8 bars of this song, 2 bars F6, 2 bars D7, we already played all these chords, 1 bar G minor 7, 1 bar C7, 2 bars F. So it's just a 1, 6, 2, 5, with the 6 being a dominant chord D7, but stretched out over 8 bars. 2 bars, 2 bars, and then 1 bar, 1 bar, 2 bars. So let's play that whole song in this simple version, and then let's go to the more, I don't want to say nicer version, but a more interesting version. So there's nothing wrong with this version. It's perfectly fine, and I would really enjoy playing a solo over this version, especially when it's swinging, because that's the most important thing. So if I would be playing rhythm, this would be my standard, my basic version, which I can choose to embellish, not so much with the right hand, but more with different chords, different chord inversions. And this is a perfect song to start implementing that, because it's such an easy chord progression. So let's go to that second version. So this first 8 bars, there's some standard embellishments, which I talk about in those rhythm tutorials. Go check those out if you haven't already, in which I talk about just shifting chords back and forward. Let's say you have 4 bars of C7, like here, you could play something like this. Right, I shifted back on the 3rd beat of the 2nd bar, and then back up to the C7. Or I could shift up like this. That's a standard embellishment, which you can always do when you have 4 bars of a dominant chord, like for example in Limehouse Blues or Joseph Joseph or Sweet Georgia Brown. Now, that's what I did in the first 3 bars. I do exactly this embellishment. B7, C7. And then I go to this chord, which is an inversion of C7. It's just a C triad with a B flat in the bass. So it's C7 with a B flat in the bass, which would be 6 mute 5 5 5. But since I'm focusing on the lowest 4 strings, you might not really hear that E all that much. But of course, because I realize I'm playing this nice inversion, I might play the B string a little bit more so you can hear that E. Resolving to this 3-note chord, it's F with an A in the bass. Right, you could play a note on the B string if you want. But I usually play a 3-note voicing. And then I play in the 2nd bar, I want to go from this F with an A in the bass to the normal F. And I do that with these passing chords. So it's F and A in the bass, G sharp diminished, 3-note chord, C7, F. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it says D flat 7. That's just to play something that leads to C7 for the next bar. So let's play these 8 bars with the backing track. And it doesn't matter if the bass player is not following this. You can just play this on top of regular bass lines. Next 8 bars. First 4 bars I do basically the same embellishment, C7. This time I stay on C7 because I want to play the opposite thing on F. I want to go from this chord to F with an A in the bass, and I do that exactly the same way, just the opposite way. That's really a Django thing to do. To emphasize it, you could play some long chords. You could play, right? So play some long strokes, which normally I avoid. I play short strokes, but you could emphasize that. You could even do that. Play that bass note first. Those are all optional, of course. You could just play your short rhythm and it sounds great too. So let's play those first 16 bars and listen to the difference in feeling going from F and A in the bass down to F, or going from F up to F and A in the bass. It's a different feel, so it's interesting even though it's based on the same principle. Then we arrive to D7. So I do exactly the same embellishment, D7, and then slide back from fret back up to D7. But this time I'm not going to G minor 7, I'm going to G minor with a B flat in the bass. 3-note chord, and why? Because I want to go to this B flat minor 6. And I think it's nice to play these voicings in a row because you'll get this D here resolving to this D flat. Now this voicing for B flat minor 6 is pretty hard to play if you've never played it. It's basically the same as B flat 6, or like this F chord, right, that we have in this song, but then on B flat. But then you move your first finger backwards. Difficult to play if you're not used to it. You could also play it like this, with all 5 fingers. It's also fine. I'm just used to this. And let's also do the last 8 bars and then play the whole song. I'm resolving to this F, this F6 instead of the low F6, because I want to play an embellishment in the next bar that goes like, that slides down to D7. So I play F6, then I switch to a dominant chord for E7, E flat 7 to D, and then I'm not gonna play in regular 251. I'm gonna play this Django 251, the one I was talking about in, I think, episode 1, or the episode I talk about Coquette. I think maybe it's episode 2. And then instead of doing 251, you play 4 chords, so B flat, and you just slide it up 2 frets, and then play C7. And this voicing, which I really like, lowest 4 strings, 8, 7, 8, 9, resolving to F. So these 8 bars would go like this. Let's play both versions. So I'm gonna play one chorus, the simple version, and then one chorus I'm gonna play this more complicated version. But now the point is, of course, to improvise the way you're going to embellish it. Don't play exactly these embellishments, but mix the two versions. Sometimes choose for 8 bars playing it without inversions, then maybe play some of the inversions. Come up with some different inversions, for instance, D7, right? You could go to D7 with a C in the bass to, right, so you get, so instead of going to G minor 7, you do, so I played D7 with the C in the bass, then I anticipated the G minor with the B flat in bass, with a half step up. So, but maybe you won't see these things now, but if you study these inversions, you will probably soon find these patterns yourself, and you can also, of course, use them in different songs. Again, if you want to have access to both the PDF with all the chord diagrams and the backing track, you can join my Patreon at the $10 level to get access to the backing track, and at the $5 level to get access to the PDF. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!